64 heritage patrons have been recognized for contributions totaling 12.5 million Sing dollars last year to protect and promote Singapore's heritage. This includes cash, artifact donations, as well as in-kind support. The amount is slightly more than the over $11 million garnered the previous year. Award recipients were honoured at the annual Patron of Heritage Awards ceremony this evening. They include individuals and businesses, as well as firms spotlighting heritage in creative ways. Transport operator SBS Transit, for example, was given a nod for efforts for promoting Singapore's languages on buses, reaching millions of commuters. Acting Culture, Community and Youth Minister David Neo says as the nation marks SG60, safeguarding local heritage is even more significant.
Understanding our past reinforces our sense of who we are, just like what was said earlier. And this connects us to those who came before, and it inspires us to build upon their legacy. Well, heritage anchors us onto our identity as a multicultural and cohesive society. It reminds us of the boldness of our forefathers who overcame great challenges to build our nation.
Next up, Dr. Benjamin Seet, who is among the 64 patrons of heritage honoured today. Dr. Seet donated his collection of more than 800 aerial propaganda material that was dropped on the population during World War II in the 1940s and the Malayan emergency in the 1950s and 60s. Benjamin, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me here.
I understand you've been collecting this material for 30 years, right?
That's right.
But you have decided to donate them to the National Heritage Board. Why did you do that? And was there some sadness in parting with your materials?
So it was a collection that I put together over 30 years. And I think when you look at it, it was probably about 900 over pieces of propaganda materials, collaterals. It was a huge collection, yes. Obviously. It was something that I would look at on a fairly frequent basis. And I would say that it probably grew too big for a private collection. I mean, it was taking up a lot of space. But I think more importantly, I felt that it was too important to remain in private hands. And I would just sort of wanted to share it with the wider Singapore.
Right. And where did you find these materials? I mean, over 30 years. And was there a particular piece that started you on this journey?
Okay. The first few pieces, actually, I think if you look back a little bit, I mean, I was very interested in history at that point in time. I read history very profusely. And I think it was during one visit to a shop in the UK, in London, where I chanced upon this leaflet. And it was sort of like, hey, I'm actually seeing things that I read about. I didn't even know that you could actually even buy them. I mean, it's things you'd expect to see in a museum. So I bought whatever the shop had. I found out that there was a society dedicated to people like me who actually collect this very esoteric materials. And in a sense, I think over time, I built up a network. And I think it's through that network that I purchased collections as they became available, with a very strong focus on Malaya, Singapore, Southeast Asia.
Yep. It's interesting. You said that you're an avid, history buff, right? Yeah. You read a lot, and this meant something to you. But this particular topic of the propaganda material of this time period, what did it actually mean to you? Was there a certain message for you?
I don't think it was so much propaganda as a thematic area of interest. Okay. It was collecting old ephemeria, historical artifacts from the past. So I do collect other areas. I mean, I do have a collection of materials from Japanese-occupied Singapore, Shonan. So it's more than propaganda. It's materials, receipts, things that people used during that period. So initially it started as adding to that collection. But with time, I think it became a little bit more focused, a little bit more specialized. And I think the interest is more in the materials themselves than the platform of propaganda warfare.
Right. Specifically to the Malayan emergency, there were some messages, that particularly warned people against the Communist Party. Messages like, your children will suffer. Yeah. What do you make of those kind of messaging?
So when you look at propaganda warfare, there's two types. There's strategic. So strategic attempts to underline the whole communist philosophy and agenda.
Yeah.
But there were many tactical leaflets at that point in time too. In fact, the term winning the hearts and minds of the people was actually coined during the Malayan emergency, specific to propaganda warfare.
Okay.
And I think there were different types of propaganda. There were rewards. I mean, you surrender your weapons, you surrender yourself, there was a reward. There was guilt. So, for example, they actually even posted letters from someone's mum to say, look, your mum misses you, she hasn't seen you for 5 years. Who's going to feed your kids? There was propaganda to actually undermine and create discord between the rank and file.
Right.
So I think it was very, very targeted. And because the Malayan emergency was a 12-year war, when it started, it was very simplistic. But by the time it went into the 5th, the 6th, and definitely by the 10th year, it became very, very sophisticated and targeted.
And as you collected this, and like you said, you noticed the progression, right, of these materials. What did it tell you about the mindset and strategies of that time?
So initially, when the first propagandas in the initial years of the emergency were actually created by British officers trying to imagine how propaganda could work against ethnic Chinese, Malays in the jungles. But I think with time, they actually recruited surrendered communist terrorists, people who actually understood what life was like in the jungle. And in the end, it became a lot more targeted. So it went from something that was very general, generic, into something that was really very specific, sometimes down to a particular individual.
Your collection is believed to be the largest private collection. It's also one of the most complete in the region.
For this particular area, I think there are collections that probably go into the thousands of pieces for people from Europe. But I think when you look at Southeast Asia, there was not so much fighting during the occupation years, except in Burma. So in Burma, as well as in the Pacific Islands in Philippines, there is quite a lot of propaganda there. But for Malaya and Singapore, I think we were spared fighting after the occupation. So there was less propaganda materials here, which makes this particularly rare. I mean, if you imagine if these were leaflets that were dropped from a plane into the jungles, if they were not picked up, they would have been long destroyed. But if they were picked up, again, when you pick up propaganda in the jungles, it's contraband. I mean, if you get caught with a surrender leaflet, you're going to get punished by your superior. So it's contraband dropped from the jungle, from the plane into the jungle. So very few would have actually survived the 60 years since the end of the Malayan emergency, the 80 years since the end of World War II.
Right. All right.
So they are rare material.
All right. Benjamin, thank you for the contribution, and thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me here.
All right. And that was Benjamin Seet, one of the patrons of Heritage, honored today.